A recent report in the Wall Street Journal says volunteer firefighter numbers are at a more than 30-year low. WCBI's Victoria Bailey made a trip to a local fire department, volunteer fire department that is, to find out how local stations stack up against those national numbers. She joins us in the studio with that story. Victoria?
Yeah, Andrea, volunteer firefighters can be the difference between life and death for many rural areas. But the lack of manpower, volunteers tell me, is getting harder to do the job.
Meet Tristan Jones and Robert Lehue. They are students at Mississippi State until they get the call.
It really depends on what you're doing. Since it is volunteer, you don't always have to go, but a lot of us try to go as often as we can. Some of us are in class, some of us are at work, and it's hard to leave.
Kurt Rosenhan is Oktibbeha Fire Coordinator, and he says this shortage may be a national issue, but is definitely hitting home.
We need more people all the time. In fact, we have just been assessed, I guess, by the Mississippi State Fire Rating Bureau, which sets standards for fire departments and ultimately insurance rates. And that's one thing we had a little problem with, was the number of people that show up. We got a job for everybody.
The volunteers say it's a rewarding job, but it can have its rough patches too.
The physical strain, which it's never gotten to a point where I couldn't handle it, but sometimes I come home pretty tired.
We have to get up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. all the time, and then have to be able to work the next day or go to class the next day.
Volunteer firefighters are on call 24/7 and face all of the same challenges of a full-time paid firefighter. But the volunteers say it's their duty to help their community.
I like to volunteer because I always think it's important to help others above yourself. That's how I was always raised. I was in the Boy Scouts and they always pushed that. So, it's some people get into situations they can't help themselves out of, so people need to be there to help them as well.
I mean, we live in this community, we're helping this community. I think it's very valuable to help people, extremely important, because there's not a lot of people, like you said, there's not a lot of people who do this job, so that's why it's important, is because if we know how to do it and we can get out here and get trained to do it, that's why we need to do it.
Now, volunteer firefighter training is held the first Tuesday of every month at 6:30 at the East Oktibbeha County Volunteer Fire Station. Andrea?
All right.